Hello, how are you today? It is Saturday and I am working on finishing up my Capri painting, and I would love to have you join me. If you have been painting at the same time as I have, or you're watching this as a replay, please make sure to tag me at hashtag create with Camilla so that I can see your creations as well, because I'd love to see that. And let's see, what do we need? We need dragon fruit. Where's my dragon fruit? Well, we'll substitute it with another color. There's my dragon fruit. So hope I have enough in this one to get us going. Well, we get us going at least, and that's about as far as I could get with that. So, are you guys doing okay? I am, and what I want to do is I want to finish up this painting today. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the pink beautiful flowers on it. We're also going to add the little houses. I'm going to add some shading with the darker green, and then just finish up my greenhouses. My green trees down here. I should have done that last time. I just didn't end up doing it. So now I'm plating up a whole lot of paint on different kinds of paint on my little painting plate here. I usually, well, I should have had a bigger one, but I didn't today. So sure, what I do is I don't always use fancy palette plates. Oftentimes I just use what I have around, and I like to reuse things that we have in the house as well. So I want to make sure that I'm like getting the most out of the plastic, because our recycling system here in the Beaufort County is not amazing. So so that's kind of where that's going. So let me just get started. I plated up quite a few different paints, and I'm going to start with the pink. Now I can do that with the round paintbrush, or I can do that with the um, flat brush. So I'm just going to take the round brush and then just finish it off and just put in this beautiful, beautiful fuchsia color, which is called dragon fruit. So I'm just going to do the same thing as I've done with all the others, and just kind of work around that green a little bit, and then just kind of put it in there, put it in there. And I'm using similar strokes to what I used when I was painting the trees as well, because these are actual floral flower bushes that just are so stunningly beautiful in Italy. I've actually not been to Capri, but I have been to an island very close by. So I've seen Capri from a distance. We had a friend of ours when we lived in Italy. She had a house in Ischia. Her husband was from Ischia, so they had a house there, an apartment rather, I should say. So we went and visited her. Went there in, I can't even remember what time of the year it was, but it was absolutely beautiful. The food was amazing. I'm a little bit of a foodie when it comes to stuff like that, so I just loved, loved, loved everything about that. So when we took the ferry out from Naples to get to Ischia, we were able to see Capri in the distance. So I think this is also uh, the pink bushes. There we go. And just finishing those off. And that's like really the only thing that's going to be so striking is this pink. And once I've gotten that done, I'm going to put a little bit of that more mellow melon color or coral blush that I have. And then these things here, go all up into the water there. Here we go. And as you can see, that color actually does cover the water. And if it doesn't cover completely the first time around, I can always go over it one more time when it's dried up. So yes, these islands are absolutely amazing. And if you have an opportunity at some point to visit this part of Italy and Naples, it is like an entirely different culture, I tell you that. It's very It's very Italian, very Italian. So they don't, I mean, they do love tourists, don't get me wrong, but they don't cater to tourists in a way that, for example, like I'm about to take a cruise and we're going to the Bahamas, and I haven't been to the Bahamas in 20 years, but I even remember that when we were there, it was all the Grand Bahama Nassau. It was all catering to tourists, and every cruise ship does to dock and everything is just catering to tourists. Whereas I find they just live their lives, and tourists are welcome to come on in and do their thing, and they'll do what they do. And but for the most part, Italians in that era or in that area are really just living their life and doing their thing. So I find that kind of fun and fascinating. So now I've done that. I'm going to let that dry for a minute, and then I'm going to go with the dark paint underneath the trees, at the bottom of the trees. You can do this if you're painting everything in one go. You can do, and you can kind of make it so that it kind of has an ombre finish. But because my paint is completely dry, because I've painted this over several days, then I'm just going to go ahead and put some dark at the very bottom of my branches. See how I'm like, you can see that, right? Yes, you can. So you can see how I'm like doing it at the bottom, because the top part, I'm going to put some lighter green, that really light lime green, because I like the way that that makes it look like, the sun is shining from above. So the bottom part is the dark part. And the same down here. I'm going to go with dark a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to create, look at that. I think I forgot that. Should have been pink. I'll just grab another paintbrush. And you know what? Yeah, I tried that pink. Yeah. I try to empty these. These are my favorite paints, my Decor Americana. This actually goes right into the ocean right behind there. That's kind of interesting. It's not the ocean, actually. It's the Mediterranean Sea. And so, yeah. Okay, so, and one of the things I always wanted to and always loved, and on Ischia, much as like on Capri, wild rabbits are a very big delicacy, and in all the restaurants. So we were taken up to this crazy hilltop restaurant, like it was literally in the middle of nowhere, on Ischia, like the neighbor island to Capri. And it was so interesting because I was like, who goes here? Who actually goes to a restaurant that's absolutely in the middle of nowhere to eat? Um, and when we got there, I discovered the food was absolutely fantastic and amazing. And of course, the locals knew that. And this is, again, this is a typical Italian thing, or maybe it's not just Italy, but it's like, it's so interesting because I gotta get that dark green here. I forgot those before. It's so interesting because Italians will travel for food. I mentioned that earlier, my sort of theory. I think that was on this first chat that I did. My theory about why Italians actually go on vacation in Italy, because they love. One of the reasons is because they love the food and they know what they're getting. They know what the menu looks like, and they feel that they can be guaranteed good food. Of course, there's a ton of other reasons for it. Visiting family and friends and being able to speak the language and all that kind of stuff. But and it struck me when I was there that it was one of the reasons that type of a restaurant in the middle of absolutely nowhere was flourishing. It was fully booked. Like we booked days in advance. And it's because the Italians just don't care about where the restaurant is. If it's good food, they will go to it. They will have, you can have the best, finest, beautiful restaurant, seafront, whatever, excellent locations. And what do you find? Tourists, because they go for the location. But if the food isn't good, you're not going to find the Italians eating there. They know good food, so they're not going to faff around with bad stuff. So I find that fairly interesting. how that all works. So here we go. I'm going to put some of the lighter color on these as well, up at the very, very top, just to kind of get them. I'm going to save that one for a little minute because I want to put the house huts in first, and then I'll do that darker color around it. Because if I go in and do dark brown right now, excuse me, dark green, then what's going to happen is I'm going to struggle to put the white on during this call, because you kind of need to wait until it dries. Otherwise, it's just going to start picking up that green color. So that's why I'm just kind of hanging out a little bit with that. I'm going to put the white houses in and move on from there. So yeah, so that rabbit, it was like a rabbit stew with like a rich tomato sauce. I can't even really exactly remember the recipe. It's been a few years, but it was just so good. It's like in a red, really rich sauce because, of course, it has a lot of fat on it, and then they have this amazing bread that you kind of dip into the sauce when you kind of finished it up. And of course, I'm sure we had some kind of a pasta for a primo piatto, because you know how like Italians, you have your main courses are not like you have multiple different um, food plates that you get. And so you get your pasta and your rice dishes first, and smaller portions, not big portions. And then after a little bit, when you finish those, you actually get your protein, and usually your vegetables come with that. And so I don't remember what we might have had, a risotto to start with or something like that. I just remember that fantastic rabbit. And of course, my favorite Italian dessert. It doesn't matter where in Italy you go, you can always count on a good tiramisu. And so that is by far my favorite dessert. And so it's kind of fun to go to Italy and just have a dessert like that. And again, it doesn't really matter where you go in Italy, you can count on having tiramisu on the menu. Okay, I'm going to stop for that for just a second. I'm going to show you this. So basically, I'm doing it with a round brush, but if you have a flat brush, you can do this like super, super fast. This is like basically one stroke. My flat brush is a little bit too big for this. So I'm doing it with a round brush, which is not as easy. But all I'm doing is basically creating a rectangle of white. That's as simple as these houses are. So all that extra all the extra things that you might have on it. You can do the corners, you can do the edges, but really, even if I hadn't put any tracing underneath this, I could just put these houses in wherever I want them to be, because all I'm doing is I'm just putting white blocks where I feel that there could be a house. Okay, so that probably is going to be the last house I did. This one I kept clear. Okay, so those are my houses. These are just hints of houses. But the fun thing is you add a little bit of that coral blush on top of them, and then that becomes the roof. So let me see. Just like that. I might mix a little bit of the buttermilk with that to kind of tone it down and get a little bit almost like that terracotta feel that I have here. So I just put a line on top of there. See, that's all that we need to do. Really, literally all that we need to do. Very simple. You don't have to spend time and energy on creating these houses. All the eye has to know is there's houses up there, and that's what they look like. And so that's kind of where that is. And now I'm going to go with that same color. I'm going to go in here. This helps me. I'm doing speed painting here. I just hadn't really done that in a while. So I'm just going to put some dots of that coral in here as well, just to kind of get a little bit of different, depth to it. You put a few different colors in. I might add a little bit of that buttermilk again. Actually, probably white would be cool with this. There we go. So I have white. So I'm going to do some accents with white. Yeah, see how fun that is. And this is the interesting thing. A little teeny tiny little bit of color theory here. So right here, I colored over the ocean. Let me see. I can show you. So I painted into the water. And so I have a little bit of the blue in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the paintbrush with the lighter color that has white in it. white is amazing because white actually helps you to cover up. It's like it's a coverall almost of a lot of different colors. So if you feel like, okay, I didn't quite get that color, or you make a mistake, you can always go back to white or black for that matter. And then with white, it just is, it's like not a completely non-transparent color. So whatever I have, if I have things that I need to cover up, I'm going to do the same thing, just cut a few dots here, just to get some fun definitions there. Maybe mix a little bit of that pink into it as well, so I get the cooler color. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, pink and white works really well here too. So I don't want to do too much. I just do want to do a little bit. So there's a lot going on here. There we go. Pink and white. More pink. This is where you kind of have fun and you go blend and you kind of do as much as you want. Because you can always go over it again. Just, I would say, you know, in a funny way, it's like less is more, because you'll end up with a big blobs if you just or big, like a big mishmash. So you make sure that you don't go over the parts that you've already painted. You want to paint some of the parts, but not all the parts. So there we go. Now guess what dessert we had in Ischia? Tiramisu, my absolute all-time favorite. And it was just incredible. So the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go with a smaller paintbrush. Let's see if that one's small enough. Might just try to do this one. And I'm going to put up some black. And do that on a separate plate so I don't mess it up. And then I'm going to do some contrasts with the black. And then, actually, you know what? I could do my white. Yeah, I'll do that too. My white boats. I got to do my white boats. So there we go. Contrasts with black and white boats. And then we should be done. Now, if you make mistakes like I just did, I just wiped my entire painting. And wet wipes are amazing. So you definitely want to have wet wipes on hand. So here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm taking the black paint. I'm going to not overload my paintbrush, but I want to create these trunks of the trees so that they're not like sitting in the floating in the air. And here again, you know, what doesn't really matter, whatever I created before, or whatever lines I did before, I can absolutely do different lines right now. So here we go. This state tree has lines from here, and I wiggle them as much as I can. There's only really one rule, and that is that the trunk cannot be thicker up at the top than it is at the bottom, okay? Trunk always is thicker at the bottom. You never see it the other way around. So that would be the only real rule there. And this can go into the tree a little bit. And I'm just adding some black accents in the actual tree as well, in places, just where that touches. You can mix in a little bit of green if you feel like it's too stark. And I got to do the same here. Go with black and pull it down. So actually I find it's better to start at the bottom because you actually have a lot more paint on your paintbrush to start with. You see how I'm just kind of like letting it go into there, and then just a little bit of that black again. Forgot to close my shutters here. Now I'm going to do a few streaks into the pink as well. Oh yeah, and this guy needs action. This tree in here, okay, going up. You see how it like anchors the trees. So my favorite dessert of all times is a tiramisu. And there are as many tiramisus as there are restaurants in Italy. So even if you find your favorite, you kind of need to either go back to that same restaurant if you're going to try to get that same tiramisu, because everybody makes their own. And one of the people that absolutely makes a stunning tiramisu is a guy that owns a restaurant in Rome. Now, trying to get a hold of him so to see what we can go. Coincidentally, his name's Paolo too. It's a common name. And he, he just does a really good job. So if we can get into that restaurant, I would definitely want to go there. I think that's going to be such a great experience for all of us. And so my favorite ones, actually, I learned to make tiramisu when I was in Italy, and um, my favorite is actually a strawberry tiramisu, because that way my kids were able to eat it too, and it's almost like a strawberry shortcake in a way, because it didn't have the coffee in it. And you see, I'm just drawing like really light lines around the edges here now, trying to finish that off, and just kind of pulling in a little bit underneath and just doing those lines. And so, yes. And so we had a lot of fun experimenting with different tiramisus. And I actually brought, my friend gave me this book. This is a book, it's this thick, and it's more than half of the book is all about different, it's all in Italian. It's an Italian cookbook, all about different types of tiramisus. Believe it or not, it's insane. And there's your classical tiramisu. Delicious. So my favorite, there is so many different variants of it, but my favorite that I actually make at home has whipping cream in it. I find, believe it or not, whipping cream actually makes it lighter. So that's my absolute favorite recipe. So let me know if you'd like me to share that recipe. I'd be happy to. Maybe I'll just post that on in my Tell Me About Italy group. So if you haven't joined that group yet, just join the group, and you'll find my tiramisu recipe there. If I don't get a chance to put it in there today, then I'll put it in there. I have to do it probably today because of my trip coming up. All right, so I just put a little house there, and then I'm going to mix in a little bit of the green and just make some darker spots down. The same thing, doing the dark down below and the lighter up at the top. So dark underneath the houses as well in places, and then just like this cliff's edge is going to have a little bit of darker surface to it. So yeah, so that is really what we need to do with this painting, and then highlights up at the top, lowlights at the bottom. I'm going to go back to my bigger brush. No, I won't. I'm going to keep going with a small brush because I want to be able to create those little sailboats. That was my last thing that I promised I would do. I'll do some highlights with that. So the sailboats is really just you create a straight line, a little triangle, and connect them like that. And then all you do is a line underneath it. That's your sailboat. One a little bit lower down, straight line, an angled line, and connect them. And then a broad line below. And then the fun thing is, if you have this paintbrush is sort of giving way, but you have a really very, very little paint in your paintbrush, just go like a few strokes, short strokes underneath it. And then you can do the same underneath the cliffs. It's almost like waves. It's kind of fun. And you can do highlights in the trees. Just a few here and a few on the flowers as well. And a little bit in the cliffs. Oops. And that's my dark color. Here we go. I got it into the green. And yeah, so this is the way, and you can just keep working on the painting until you feel like you're happy with your highlights and your lowlights and your colors and your shades. There is no rule for that. The main thing is we've created what we wanted to create, and just keep going with it. Like you have a few lines down here, a little bit of black underneath here, and a few lines over here. And that's all I've done. I've done all of this, all of this, all of this. I've done most of that. Yep. And then it's just a case of just adding some touches, final touches to the painting. So yeah, so that concludes our Italian Capri painting session. Oh goodness, I've just gone over a little bit. So let me finish up by saying that if you are interested in joining our Tell Me About Italy group, then you go to Facebook and you just look for the handle Tell Me About Italy and you just join it. If you're not on Facebook and you're interested in the trip, What I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to take a couple of minutes, and if you have a chance to stay on, I would love to share this information with you. I've been told by my guy in Italy who's handling all my bookings for me and for the rest of the group that he wants the hotel bookings, the rooms back. Basically, what that means is they need, in order for us to keep all the rooms that we have allocated for us, but that don't have a name attached to them. So there is nobody that's booked them. He wants those back unless we can put names to them. So if you're feeling like you are going to want to come to Italy with us this year, then I want you to start that process like right now, so that you can get with me. The booking link is available and it's open. For the moment, if you're watching this live or if you're watching this during the last weekend in January, then everything should be status quo. If you're watching it after that, then I am not 100% sure what price the ticket link will show you, because once I release the hotel rooms back to him, I'm not going to be able to get them back for the same price. And I know that sounds cliche, but it really is the truth. We just had a guest who wanted to extend for her and her group that are coming. She wanted to extend for a couple of days in Rome. And she asked, could she stay at the same hotel? I was like, sure, but let me just find out. Now, what happened was that room, that same hotel, just 2 extra days, like a Monday night and a Tuesday night, not even like a weekend, 480 euros per night for a double room. So I can understand if they can sell those hotels. Or if you're booking and you have a friend or family member or spouse that wants to come, then you just ask them to come too. And once they've booked with you or separately or however that goes, then you will get $100 kickback. And I've never given anybody that much, but basically that's a discount off of your last payment. So for every person that you refer that books on the trip, you get $100 off your own ticket. So it can add up. So what I want you to do with that is realize that that is only valid this particular weekend, the 25th and um, the 26th of January. So please go right ahead and book. In fact, tomorrow night is the last night I'm going to be able to really check my messages, because on Monday I am going on board a cruise ship for 4 days. And I was convinced not to take the internet package. So I may not be able to check your emails if that's the case. So I want you to go on and I want you to go to bit.ly slash tell me about Italy and hit the book now so that you are not going to miss out on what is quickly becoming the deal of the year, because it is insane how expensive Italy is becoming this year. So, if you're even considering it, I would just say go for it. Get your travel insurance if you're even slightly worried about anything. I always recommend travel insurance anyway when you're doing international travel. And book your ticket, start looking into flights, and come with me to Italy. All right. Have a great day. Bye.